Do you ever wish that you could just instantly shift into a state of higher consciousness, one that's more peaceful, more loving, more joyful, instead of being stuck in states of frustration, of anxiety, of just general low vibration? Well, if you've ever wished that you could do that, in this video, I'm going to teach you a very easy but incredibly powerful, unique technique for doing just that. So stick around. Hey, I'm Ziad Masri. I'm the author of the best-selling book, Reality Unveiled, and I'm also the founder of SoulHub.com. If this is the first time you visit this channel, be sure to click the subscribe button below and that little bell icon beside it so you can be notified anytime I publish a new video, which is always from my heart and soul for your spiritual awakening and empowerment. And also, make sure to leave a comment below. Just tell me what you thought of this video. If you have any questions, if you want any future topics that you'd like me to cover, I'll be happy to look into that. And then finally, if you're interested in free intensive training on a range of higher consciousness subjects, such as manifesting success and abundance in a higher consciousness manner, helping the world, fulfilling a greater life purpose, and reaching a state of awakening or spiritual enlightenment, check out SoulHub.com, where we're currently running free 2-hour intensive training sessions that are deeply transformative and which I'm sure you're gonna love. Now, having said that, let me jump right into this video. So these days, a lot of people are wishing that they could be in a higher state of consciousness, all right? They want to tap into some transcendent state, leave the old way behind, because they can sense that there's a better way of being in the world. The problem, though, as beautiful as that is that there's a lot of misconceptions going on about what that actually means. All right, and there's a lot of misinformation, and there's this kind of conception that I've heard a lot of people talk about, that it means some kind of special mystical state, something that can only be reached after years of meditation or trying psychedelics or something special like that that the average person can't do. And that's just not true, okay? That's a misconception. So that's the first misconception. The second misconception is what it actually means to be in a lower state of consciousness, okay? Because it's only when you understand what it really means to be in a lower state of consciousness that you can actually switch and tap into the higher state. Otherwise, you're going to be confused what it really means, because the higher state is basically the polar opposite of the lower state in many ways, okay? And so let's start with that, okay? What is the lower state of consciousness? Well, the lower state is really the state the vast majority of humanity find themselves in today. And it really is a state based on one major underlying error of perception, okay? An underlying limiting belief, if you will. And then that's the belief in separation. The belief that I am a separate person, separate from the whole, and that I need to protect myself, and that what I am comes at the cost of others or the world or whatever. So it's a very limited state of being, all right? And while a lot of people in the spiritual community might have heard that, might understand that, the problem is that this doesn't translate into the practicality of what it means in their lives, because they don't understand what is actually feeding this, what's called the egoic state of consciousness, okay? What is feeding it and what is perpetuating it? And that's what you really need to understand to transcend it. So what is feeding this state of consciousness is judgment, is attack, is feeling victimized, is feeling frustrated or angry and projecting blame outside yourself onto the world. And the reason for that is, well, it's only when you feel separate from someone else that you can judge them and blame them, right? It's only when you feel separate from the world that you can feel that a life situation that you're currently undergoing is something that, you know, that you're a victim of, right? And if you didn't have that sense of separation, you wouldn't be able to judge or feel victimized or feel angry or feel frustrated, all right? So you need to understand that even what passes for, you know, normal human behavior. Like everyone judges, everyone gets angry, everyone gets frustrated, everyone feels a victim in their life at times, everyone gets, angry at their loved ones and all this type of stuff, right? And it's just seen as normal human behavior. Okay, fine, that might be normal, but it's also the lower state of consciousness. And if you want the higher one, you have to stop looking at that as normal, and you have to essentially look at that as kind of the undesired state, and that there is something much better, all right? And the real crux of the matter here is that you don't need anything special to go into a higher state of consciousness. What you need is to kind of short circuit all the things that are actually perpetuating the lower state. Okay? So what you need is to stop something that stops the judgment, that stops the feelings of victimization, that stops the projection of blame outwards. When those things occur, okay, what happens is that you see the world in a different way, and your brain literally gets rewired, and things snap into a greater, level of being, a higher state of consciousness. Okay, so that's really the key here. Now the question is, how do you do it from a practical sense? Because that's beautiful to hear that and all that, but how do you actually do it in your life? Well, I've actually developed a very simple, very easy to use technique, all right, that can allow you to do that in a matter of, if you practice it 15, 20 seconds, and you can be shifting into higher consciousness right away throughout your day, through different situations with different people, and experience the benefits of that very, very consistently, all right? So the question is, what is this technique? Well, to make it easy for people, I created an acronym, and it's called PLUG. It's called the PLUG technique. Now, why PLUG? Okay, well, it's kind of a symbolic way to remember that this higher state of consciousness is not something that we are manufacturing. It's something that's always there. It's actually the truth of our being, and it's something that can be plugged into, kind of as a metaphor, right, to help you remember it, anytime you want. Okay, you can literally plug into it. It's not something that you have to become. It's here now. Okay, so the technique is called the PLUG technique. Okay, you plug yourself into higher consciousness. Now, what is plug? It's actually, the 4 letters, so there's 4 steps, right? And there are 4 very easy steps that can literally be done in 15, 20 seconds, very, very quickly, just even as you're going about your day, okay? All right, so the first step in the plug technique or formula is the P, which stands for purpose. Now, I'm going to cover this in a kind of a broad overview. I actually covered it in a lot more detail in another video I did for this channel called How to Live a Spiritually Awakened Life. And I really recommend that you find that video, open it up in new tab, keep it there aside so then you can watch it later and really just get in depth into this specific part of this first step, because having greater understanding or clarity will allow you to do it much more, and the rest of the plug technique really depends on it. It's much harder to do the other steps without really grasping what this is all about. All right? Now, what is purpose all about? So, it really has to do with why you're greater, the biggest why you're living your life, why you're here, right? Now, for most people that are in a state of lower consciousness, that are not in peace, that are not consistently kind of living a joyful or fulfilled life, their purpose is really essentially the ego's goals or the egoic goals. So it's basically, even if those seem noble, that doesn't really matter, right? It's goals that help you get further ahead in life, essentially. And all the kind of day-to-day things that you need to get done. So you wake up in the morning and you're thinking, oh, my purpose today, I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to achieve this and I got to achieve that, right? Now, the key here is to have a different, higher consciousness purpose, okay? And that purpose becomes looking at things from a completely different perspective that sees you not as just this limited human being, right? But sees you as the consciousness or the spirit or soul, whatever you want to call it, the name doesn't really matter, that is behind the human being, that is living life through the mask or costume of this human character that we think is us, okay? And if you identify with that perspective more, right, that Perspective's purpose starts becoming your purpose. And what is the purpose of that perspective? Well, the purpose of that perspective is really just to awaken to itself more fully, because it is limitless. All right? And so to embody it in human form in a limitless manner. That's the purpose. So if you were to switch your whole life's purpose from doing whatever you needed to get done to living each day, doing all the things you need to do, but with a higher purpose, that really changes everything. So now, let's assume some situation is very upsetting, or a person does something to upset you. The first step in this plug technique, right, is to instantly remember your purpose. Is to remember, wait a minute, my purpose here is not to be right. My purpose here is not to prove them wrong. My purpose here is not to try to figure out the situation quickly or escape it or cope with it. My purpose is to use this to awaken to higher consciousness, to awaken to my true self behind the costume of the human more fully. So instantly, it's an opportunity, right? Instantly, it changes from adversity to an opportunity. So that's how important purpose is. It changes everything. So when something negative happens, you're like, hey, wait, what's my purpose? Oh yeah, my purpose isn't to do this and this and that. It's to use this to grow spiritually, to evolve, okay? So that's number one, very, very important. Instantaneously switches your perspective on the whole thing, all right? The second step is the L, which stands for lens, okay? i.e., which lens are you viewing the world or the situation or the person from, all right? And here, what I want you to do is to switch lenses from essentially, this should not be happening, because that's usually the lens that makes us suffer, right? That person should not have said that. This situation should not be happening. To, it should be happening. It's exactly what I want, and it's exactly what I need. So you might be thinking right now, how can I assume that unacceptable things like abuse and violence and so forth should be happening? Doesn't that just perpetuate them? Well, no, this is actually a major misconception, and I wanted to pause this video to tell you to check out my other video called How to Have a Spiritual Awakening Fast with an Unusually Powerful Technique. You can find that video on this channel after you're done watching this video, and it'll really help you apply this technique much better. All right, and with that said, let's get back to the video. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not what the person that you think you are, the human, wants. Clearly, anything negative seemingly is not what we want, or we don't think we need it, all right? Or we feel like it shouldn't happen. But again, remember the purpose. If you are using the perspective of higher consciousness, of what you actually are, of the spirit that you actually are, realize that spirit does want this, does need this, and understands that it should happen. Why? Because it is useful for your soul's evolution. You are here to learn lessons. On the grandest scale, to learn how to be unconditionally loving. That's the grandest scale, all right? And so to do that, you need to learn all these different lessons. And so it is for you. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you, all right? And when you realize that, you look through that lens, all of a sudden, that just takes a huge edge off of it. Instead of thinking, oh my God, that person shouldn't have, or that shouldn't. They should. It's perfect as it is. It's exactly what needs to happen. Now, that doesn't mean it can't change. Don't get me wrong. Those are other subjects. It can change, but the idea is internally how you perceive it determines whether you suffer or not, or whether you stay in lower consciousness or you shift into higher consciousness or plug into higher consciousness, okay? So that's number two. Remember that the lens should become from shouldn't to should. It is what I want, it is what I need on a soul level from my soul's evolution, which is what? My purpose, okay? So those are the first two. Now, number three is the U, which is understanding, all right? Here is where you look through a lens of understanding. You see that, okay, this person, let's say, that is upsetting you, all right? This person is not upsetting you because deep down they want to upset you. No human being in the world consciously wants to hurt someone else unless they had these deep subconscious or unconscious hurts and pains and traumas and shadow material and all this stuff that is coming up and essentially controlling their behavior. All right, so it's the hurt that hurt others. It's those that are hurting that hurt others, right? And so the idea here is to switch from blame, projecting blame, to compassion. And whatever helps you do that. If you want to see that person as this hurting little child that is within the seeming adult, do that, and that helps you feel compassion for them, all right? If it's a situation, let's say it's not a person, it's something that just happened. The way to do this, the way to look at it through the lens of understanding, is to look at it as, wow, this is something from the universe that is to help me evolve. It's not to help the human get their way, all right? It's not to help me, who that I think I am, get what I want. It's to help the soul learn the lessons that will evolve it, which is why I'm here to begin with. All right? And so when you look at it from that perspective, that brings a lot of clarity and understanding. Now, the way to do this in this third step, the understanding step, is either you can, again, visualize them as, a child and understand that that's why they're hurting you, because they're hurt, or you can just visualize that the universe is kind of blessing you with this white light. Even with the darkest situations, there's actually a white light behind it that's a true blessing in disguise, right? And understand that that's the real purpose behind whatever's going on, all right? So that's where understanding comes in. And then after you've done that, the fourth step, all right, which is G, so that ends the plug, right, is gratitude. Now, think about this. What else can you feel after you've realized that whatever's going on or whoever's doing whatever they're doing is actually helping you evolve on a spiritual level, which is the only reason you're here to begin with, and which you forget because you get so sucked into daily life, right? What else could you feel but a deep gratitude, a deep internal bow, thanking them for helping you, or thanking the situation for helping you, all right? And so as you see, it is a radically different way of viewing the world, and that is what higher consciousness is. It's not some, again, mystical, magical, special thing. It's just a radically different way of viewing the world from a different perspective, all right? And when you do that, when you can plug into it like that by instantly remembering your greater purpose, what you're really here for, seeing through a different lens that says it should be happening, it is for my own good, it needs to be happening on a soul level, then understanding that whatever is going on, that person's hurting you not because of you, it's because of their own pain, or that situation is occurring because it's truly a blessing, and even the person's really blessing you. And then 4, leaving nothing left but gratitude, thanking them internally for helping you. And as you can see, when you do this, what's going to happen? All the things that you did not want to happen in life, that you wish don't happen, now you can start looking forward to them, ironically enough, because you realize they can help you move forward. And each time you do this, your overall state of consciousness increases or gets higher, right? Which makes it easier to do this. Again, there's always a virtuous cycle with these types of things, all right? And so when you can do this, you're going to naturally be more peaceful, more happy, more joyful, and less judgmental. Your relationships will get better. And then life situations, funny enough, when you approach them from this manner, they naturally change, because what's on the inside naturally reflects and changes the outside, or the outside actually reflects the inside. So once this changes, that can't help but change. And even if it doesn't, you're more at peace with it anyway. So it doesn't really matter ultimately in the end. So that's it. That's the plug technique. Okay. Again, if you practice this, you can snap into this in literally 15, 20 seconds. Like when it's happening, you can kind of be pausing internally and remembering your purpose and kind of looking through that different lens of it should be happening. And then, so you're not really resisting it, understanding that it's a blessing in disguise, and then feeling gratitude for it. Okay. And you just practice this, right? You can even practice through visualization when you're in meditation or something, to help you actually put it into practice when, things are really hot and really testing you, right? The more you practice it internally, the more it'll actually come to bear when things are really stressful, let's just say, okay? And then if you find that you ever forget to do it, or you're just incapable of doing it, the situation or the person's too extreme or whatever, do it afterwards. that still helps because you'll still be holding on to the suffering afterwards, and you'll be replaying it in your mind. It'll be still causing you suffering. So do it afterwards. Replay it in your mind, but through this different lens, with a different purpose, with a different understanding, and with a different outcome, which is, instead of anger and frustration, gratitude and feelings of kind of peace and acceptance, which is what higher consciousness actually is, without all the misconceptions around it. All right, so I hope that was very helpful. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, what else you'd like me to cover. And I'd like to remind you also that on SoulHub.com, which is my website, I'm currently running free 2-hour intensive training sessions on a range of topics, from how to manifest success and abundance from a higher consciousness perspective or lens, which is key here. So it's not something you end up chasing. It's a whole different way of looking at it. How to help the world and fulfill your greater purpose, and how to reach spiritual awakening and enlightenment. So those are 2-hour free intensive sessions, huge amount of value that are very transformative. And I know you're going to love them. So definitely check out soulhub.com, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much.